Hello everybody and welcome back to my stream. This is going to be Elite Dangerous with Wadres today. And for... oh shit. I thought I had that turned off. Ay. Okay. Let's try that again. Again, obviously today it's going to be Elite Dangerous, and right now I'm actually working on a mining map in HIP 76521, planet A2, trying to get basically trying to get tritium together for my fleet carrier so that I can actually start making a push out into the galaxy for the purposes of mapping some uncharted systems way the hell out in the boonies. And that's going to require actually a couple of fueling trips, I'm sure, especially once I get to my sort of halfway destination. And what I'm actually doing right now, though, in this system is I'm actually mapping this section of hotspot here so that I can actually get my route down, just kind of load up my tanks as fast as I can. And I mean, so far it's going pretty smoothly. My ultimate goal is to try and get together enough tritium, or, well, get enough tritium together, of course, to fully supply my carrier, but also to, in the end, submit the mapping, the map images down to Earth Astronomy, because he's got a mapped mining section on one of his side sites, specifically for the purpose of providing this kind of information to people who are looking for it. So hopefully this is something that will not just help out me, but somebody else in the long run. And I do have a good bit of it mapped out already, and for the extent of this stream, you're probably only really going to see me go through what I've already mapped, because I'm not planning on taking an incredible amount of time for tonight's stream. So again, there's probably not going to be much that gets added on, especially over the course of the stream, but I would like to think that maybe I will, especially since one of the other things that I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be doing the laser mining. I'm not going to be doing any of the subsurface mining that I've noted, because there are some rocks that actually have decent subsurface or surface deposits that are very much worth grabbing, but they are very time consuming, and for the purposes of my stream and just running the map, it's just going to take way too much time to do. Now I do want to turn this on because it helps with some of the detection of rocks at range, and I want to be smack on the... I want to be smack center on the hotspot location here. Let's come over to the nav panel, and now I target the third tritium map hotspot in the chain, which is also towards the planet, so I have a very solid frame of reference for my direction. And now I look over this way. You can't see me tabbing through anything, but I do have some of my images already up to the side here so that I can see my reference points and where I am in the general scheme of things. So it does look like I am properly oriented, so let's go ahead and start doing my prospector launches. Now I have two rocks right off the gate that are marked because they're relatively close to the entry point. So my second rock, which is the one that I just launched the prospector onto, is actually the reference point for my second image. And I do try to keep my reference, or my tagged rocks, at something around 20% or better, so that they actually produce a relatively fair amount of material. And again, it just helps with getting faster results overall for the trip. There are, of course, others that are all around here that are like 17, 18%. But for the purposes of setting up the mining map, I really want to keep that more around 20% because not everybody likes going to quite the same extent that I do sometimes. And go ahead and let my limpets collect this material. Why does my tablet love to automatically output at 720? Or, sorry, 144. I don't know why. It's annoying. Because I know I'm streaming in full HD. You'll also notice for the purposes of my webcam that my lighting is actually a little bit better. I actually got a LED strip light to go along my wall up over my desk here. So now I don't have massive glare from the ceiling fan behind me, so you can actually see me and everything that's going on around. Though I do kind of wish my webcam would stop going haywire as far as the light balance. Okay, we're all collected here anyway. Let's go ahead and move to the second tagged rock, which is right here. I think I actually want to be a little bit more towards its side over here. Right about there. And chisel away. Now, one of the things that was mentioned specifically by Down to Earth Astronomy in regards to actually properly completing map mining on any level is to always maintain your proper orientation as you're going through the map, because otherwise if you're changing around, if you're shifting, moving around too much, you can actually lose your position very effectively. Which is, one, why I have the Tritium site, the farthest of the 3 Tritium sites tagged, because that gives me a constant direction to basically keep moving in, and it also gives me, well, the other thing is I'm also trying to make sure that I'm always keeping my ship oriented vertically to the same points within the space, so that all of my reference points are done from roughly the same locations. And the other thing that I learned from that was any reference points moving forward are generally done from underneath the rock image. So, or from within your own reference system, underneath the rock that you use for your individual reference points, to the next rock, so that you don't throw people off. Coming over to the next image. It looks like rock number 3 is actually this one right here. I've been playing around also with remapping a lot of my controls to make sure that everything is in decent locations. So that I can actually work them easily. Now, before I actually mine this one, I do have one simple thing that I want to play with, especially since I'm not really in danger of hitting anything. And that is, I want to play around with the free camera just ever so slightly. Take me to the outside of the ship, please. Okay. So, let's go ahead and roll that way. Come on. Basically, I just kind of want to give you all an outside view of what this looks like on the ship doing the mining. And come on. Let's go down just a little bit because I also want to see the limpets in action because that's the fun part. Here we go.
Programming limpet drone.
Hello? There we go. Ack. And of course now my controls decide to go haywire too. Let's move in just a little bit more. Not really seeing the chunks that have been mined away very much. Oh, there they are. They're way off up there.
Asteroid depleted.
So let's go back to there. You can see them kind of spawning in range and the limpets collecting them, going around, under, and into my cargo hatch. Unfortunately, I am not confident flying like this. I certainly can't track anything very well. So, unfortunately not going to use this very often. I wish there were a way I could go directly to this view, but I don't think that is possible. So, yeah. Looks like we're done collecting. So, back inside. Yep, everything's done collecting. So now let's go ahead, get into position to go on to the next one. Did a firmware update for my joystick here, so it's not as persnickety as it has been the last couple of weeks, but it's been pretty. It's still been pretty persnickety. Okay. Next in line, looking off over this way. And it's going to be that one right there. Pick up, go to that limpet controller. Per my own mapping, this one should be 21.2%. Hey, guess what? 21.2%. So far, my mapping is... so far my mapping is actually staying very accurate. Now you'll also notice that in my controls I actually have two prospector limpets that are marked on either side of my head. That's because I actually have them separately mapped. And there's a good reason for that. One of them is a Class 5 limpet controller, the other one is a Class 3. The Class 3 only controls 2 limpets, the Class 5 controls up to 4. But when I'm launching, it will try to evenly distribute between the two. So if I have them on the same controller mapping, it'll only allow me to use up to a total of 4 from those limpets, even though I could technically control a maximum of 6. So if I want to get the full use of the 5A limpet controller, I have to have it mapped separately so that I can actually use it. And there's a good reason for having it. It's primarily because there is one point, at least along what I've mapped so far, where I actually need to have all 6 of those limpets usable. Because I just have this massive cluster of rocks all in a relatively small area that are all very high value, and instead of trying to just map them all individually, I decided to just kind of mash them all into one image, mark them, but this also means that in order to go through the mesh properly, I have to actually have all of them marked at once. Hence the need for at least 6 limpet controllers. The other bonus to having 6 limpet controllers is when I do get to a area that I have where I'm doing any sort of fresh mapping, it gives me the ability to tag multiple rocks at once, and if I have an image off to the side, I can just scratch them off as I go, but also still kind of keep a sort of direct in-game retention of which ones I've already done within reason, so that I don't lose my place for the mapping, I don't lose my place for the frame of reference imaging, especially if I'm starting to lose my track. And it also allows me to tag multiples within a single frame if need be. I'm hoping that without doing any of the subsurface mining for the purposes of the stream, I might just get to that section. So next in line is going to be that. No, I do not want to go up and be above. I do want to be underneath. And according to my reference, I need to be looking this way. I think. This way. And I believe it's that one right there. Right on the edge of my stereo net, going to the back instead of the front.
Prospector limit engaged. Programming limit drone. Asteroid scan complete. Programming limit drone. Programming limit drone.
Now, for those of you who've watched my streams before will have noticed by now, I've actually changed my color scheme, at least for my cutter. I've opted for green weaponry this time around, and some of the color options that I've gone for the externals on the ship when you were looking at the free camera are also green, like the ship is glowing, and I figured that was rather fitting considering what I'm mining. For those of you who are not overly aware, tritium is actually a it is a isotope of hydrogen. It's got the hydrogen proton and 2 neutrons on it, so it's got an atomic mass of 3 compared to base hydrogen, which has an atomic mass of 1, just a proton. But it is also, to a point, a radioactive molecule. And it glows under radiation. In fact, it is what is widely used for the glow-in-the-dark of some watches and hard filaments. And I figured that's why I decided to go with the green lasers, but also the green glowing markings for my paint job. Why? Because I'm mining tritium. For those of you who aren't too much into following the science or anything like that, that's probably no never mind to you, but I figured it would be interesting to somebody somewhere along the way. My next rock is... Yep, that one right there.
Programming limpet drone. Prospector limpet failed. Prospector limpet engaged.
Now, there are some rocks in my map that are under 20%, but I mean, I do still try to keep them close. I think there's only one that is even under that's like 17%, but the only reason I map it is because when you're looking at it, it's got like 3 subsurface deposits on it. So at that point, it's already far more valuable even than just a base 20% rock, because if you get like 4, 5, 6 chunks out of that subsurface deposit, you've already made more than any base 20% rock ever will. So it's valuable in other respects, and it's more than mineable. It just requires a little bit more time, skill, and effort to get it right. Now, the one downside of using the 5A prospector limpet for one thing is that I am using one less collector limpet controller. So I've only got 3 5A collector limpets, which gives me a grand total of 9 collector limpets out and doing their business. So while I have more prospecting and mapping capability, I've lost some of the capability in regards to just rapid collection of the materials as I mine them off. That is something that should probably be noted by anybody who decides to either try to follow this video for their reference points, or even later for my map, if that ever gets posted anywhere. You are going to want that extra capability, again, because there is that one section where there are multiple rocks that need to be pinged and mapped. You're not going to do it effectively without that. But the flip side is if you don't want to be anal about catching everything, you can still get away with the single 3A prospector limpet controller and all of the collectors that you want on there, and just tag the reference points to keep moving through. So if you don't want to be like a anal and just grab everything, that is the option out there. But if you do want to grab everything, you're going to want the prospector limpet controller, which means you're going to just reduce your overall ability to collect material.
Programming limpet drone. Prospector limpet failed.
And by the way, I do feel like, to a certain degree, I should apologize a little bit, especially to anybody who's watched the videos regarding my transition and trying to figure out what exactly is going on in regards to my voice or anything. I tend to deepen my voice when I'm talking or trying to project for any sort of speaking, anything like that, just by habit. It helps me for clarification, it helps me for pronunciation, enunciation, etc. and so forth. And it's just, unfortunately, a whole part of that. It's not that I'm trying to deceive anybody by using by artificially using a deeper tone of voice. It's just what I've gotten into the habit of doing in the past because trying to sound masculine, trying to sound male, it was just what I was doing on a regular basis. I am trying very much to slip into my more natural tone of voice, which is generally a little bit smoother, a little bit softer. But please forgive me if I do tend to occasionally get into the deeper tone of voice, just, again, out of habit, because it's what I've gotten used to. I'm in the point of having to break habits that I've established, and that is going to take a fair amount of time on my part. So in that regard, just please bear with me in those respects. Now, I will also admit I should be doing a lot more in regards to trying to break that habit, really, really actively trying to break that habit, because trying to maintain the deeper voice, the deeper tone of voice and whatnot does actually hurt my voice after a while. And as a result, the longer I talk about anything, the longer I try to discuss anything on stream or anything like that, the more it just starts being problematic for me, just keeping the stream going. So there is that to be out there as well. Ack. I hate it when I do that. I thought I gave it enough time to get away, but unfortunately I just ran down the limpet that I launched and killed it. That was definitely not a limpet failure, that was a failure on my part. Now, one thing that I'm thinking about doing at some point, unfortunately I can't do it right now because I'm way too far out and I don't feel like trying to track anything down. At least for some of the stages on this mining run, I'm thinking about outfitting, because I essentially have a free hard point. So if I wanted to, I can actually outfit not just one but two subsurface displacement missiles, or subsurface displacement drills, if you really want to call them that, because that's basically what they are. And that way I would effectively double my subsurface ordnance, because one of the issues that I'm sort of having with the subsurface deposits is that I will very quickly, within like one or two rocks, go through my subsurface ordnance, and then I have to resupply it through synthesis. And a couple of the materials are like grade 3, or grade 2 or grade 3, and I've been trying to I've been using a lot of those for engineering and whatnot, and as a result I really don't have a whole lot of resupplies on that. So if I can increase my overall carrying capacity, then I don't need to synthesize as much in the long run. At least that's the thought, the hope. But I don't have the patience right now to try and chase down another subsurface displacement launcher in a populated system. So right now it is what it is. I basically just have to live with what I get on the single launcher and put up with a couple of synthesis runs, at least for what I've already mapped. Okay, so there's that one done. And, I mean, you'll see that especially here, I mean, there was one rock a little bit ago that I already had tagged that had some subsurface deposits on it. And this set here, we've got that one that's actually going to have some deposits on it, but it's going to be overall low value. And then I have this one up here, which is actually going to be my target and reference point for the next in line.
Prospector limpet engaged.
Yeah, see, this one's only... geez, this one isn't even that close. It's only 4.4%, but when you look at the deposits, it's got one surface deposit. There's 1 ton of tritium right there. And even if you only get one hit out of either of those subsurface deposits, and they'll usually last more like 2, 3, in some cases 4. I've even had some last as like 8 hits and still be mineable. And each one of those chunks that you blast out of there are like 1 ton each. So, I mean, this rock, depending on how long these decide to last out, there's, let's say, 12, 13 tons, plus whatever you get from the surface mining. I mean, that's more than you'll get even from a standard rock at about 20%, fully mined out and depleted with no other deposits on it. So that's why I mark this one as a viable target, but you do need the higher skill set to actually be able to mine it out properly, and it is a very time-consuming rock to mine out. So if you're looking for a quick run, this rock's not quite for you if you're looking for just going through and doing laser mining. But if you're willing to take a little bit of time and actually mine the rock out for its full value, you're going to very much love this rock. Now, I'm not doing the subsurface mining, but I am going to at least chip that off. And move on to the tagged reference, which is a almost 25%. But technically speaking, of the two rocks that were mined in this set, the one that's right behind me is potentially far more valuable than the one right in front of me. The biggest issue with the one behind me is that it is rotating somewhat quickly. It's not a slow rotation, but it's not exactly a fast rotation, and you do have to take the time to chase down the deposits in a couple of cases to be able to actually mine them out effectively, and that's what makes them time consuming. If it were not rotating at all or rotating very slowly, it would be a completely different story. There is another one later on in the map that has a subsurface deposit nestled kind of in a chasm. And that one is a good one for killing limpets on, because the chunks will be blasted out, but it's turning relatively quickly, so they'll get caught in that chasm as it's turning around, and eventually they do get thrown out. But the collector limpets will still try to go after it, and they'll end up basically doing kamikaze runs right into the chasm. You can definitely lose like a full set of limpets trying to get that one mined out. Okay, so next in line, let's come up underneath. Do want to be looking somewhat towards the hotspot. And by frame of reference, I believe it is that one right there.
Prospector limpet failed.
And by the way, to anybody who's concerned about the fact that I'm coughing, I do not have COVID or anything like that. I have allergies, and also talking as much as I am does, again, it messes with my throat. It messes with my...
Prospector limpet engaged.
It just messes with everything, and it just gives me problems.
Asteroid scan complete.
Hell, I'm not even sick. It's literally just my allergies and the fact that I'm doing a good bit of talking.
Asteroid depleted.
For those who are collecting, let me go ahead and get my next image up now. Looks like those two have got the last chunks, so let's go ahead and get into position. And I think See, I'm also starting to memorize some of the maps since I have put this together myself. It's just some points, not all of them.
Programming limpet drone. Prospector limpet failed. Prospector limpet engaged.
Now this is the first one here. It's 24%. It's also got a surface deposit that I can blast off of it fairly quickly. Now you'll notice one of the things that I do not have in my weapons set right now, or my hardpoint set, is I do not have a seismic charge launcher. As far as your purposes for tritium mining, that is about as worthless as it comes. Just about anything you come across with tritium is going to be either surface deposits, the surface laser mining, or subsurface displacement mine. I mean, even going through relatively dense core mining regions, you'll only ever come across tritium as subsurface or surface. So it basically has no place on a tritium mining build. But that's also why I'm considering going for a second subsurface displacement missile launcher at some point or other, because, again, I have that free hardpoint, I may as well use it. In overall build for tritium mining specifically, I would probably say, assuming ammo capacity actually holds out for you, 2 subsurface displacement missile launchers, 1 abrasion blaster for the simple surface deposits, and the 4 mining lasers. As far as locations, I would definitely say you want your abrasion blaster for the surface deposits in the huge hard point, which is smack center underneath the ship. You've also got 2 medium hard points under the nose, and that's a good place for your subsurface launchers. And this is also if you're using a cutter like I am, by the way. This is not a necessarily ideal setup for some of the other designs out there. And then the last 4, the medium, the 2 hard points, the large hard points on top of the fuselage, and the 2 out on the nacelles are in fact your surface lasers. I mean, that's what seems to be working for me. I only have the 1 subsurface missile launcher, but I mean, as soon as I do eventually upgrade that, and I will be upgrading that to put that in there, I think that will very definitely help with the overall mining capability of the ship. That and having enough raw resources for the resupply, but that's another matter entirely. Okay, next one, we are looking way off this way. And I believe it is that one right there.
Programming limpet drone. Prospector limpet failed.
I think this is the one I was talking about a little bit ago that has the subsurface deposit in the chasm. As soon as this limpet makes contact, I'll know. I'm pretty sure of it.
Prospector limpet
Yeah.
engaged.
Right there, that deposit right there is in the chasm. So, trying to go after that one for subsurface displacement, yeah, you're gonna lose limpets if they're already deployed. So, just be wary of that one. And I mean, this rock here, this is an incredibly valuable rock.
Asteroid.
First off, it's 34%, so your laser mining is going to get you at least a couple of tons, like 3 or 4 tons, depending on the number of fragments that come off of it. But you also get the 2 subsurface deposits, which figure those are good for at least, what, 8, 9 tons each. And then you've got a single surface deposit. I mean, this is a extremely valuable rock. So very, very well worth your time. To the point that I'm almost considering doing it for the stream, but I really don't want to get into it too much. Swing under it to get this, but I'm... There we go. There we go.
Collector limpet expired.
You know what, let's go up. This one does have one easily mineable deposit. And that's that one right there. For the subsurface displacements. So let's go ahead... Get a couple more collector limpets deployed.
Programming limpet drone. Programming limpet drone. Collector limpet expired.
Now, because I know my position is underneath the indicator, I have to actually have it targeted so it gives me the indicator. Yeah, there's 3 chunks right there. Another 3. Another, what, 2 or 3? Yeah, 2. And that one's now exhausted, but all 3 of those, all of those were full tritium. So I've got like 9 tons of tritium off of that rock from that alone. Alright, let's go ahead back down to the prospectors. Get underneath the rock so that I can get to station next. Looking back towards the hotspot. Swinging over this way. Let's not get clopped on the head. And that one right there. See, the other fun part of trying to go through the map is when I was doing some of the mapping initially, I was on the night side of the planet, so everything was in shadow, everything was dark. The only thing that I had to mar my field of view was this vast field of rocks lit up by the... just completely lit up by the night vision settings. So here I'm having to I mean, I still have the frame of reference, I can go by the positions of the rocks around, but I've also got to contend with visibility through the dust cloud and everything else to try and still maintain my orientation as well. Though I will say, when you are on the night side of the planet in this particular map, it does help a lot because that dust cloud is no longer. Okay, being on the day side of the planet does help because you have a distinct dark and light area in the ring to help you with your orientation, especially if you're in the upper or lower regions of the ring for the mining. So it does help a lot with maintenance of orientation. As long as you remember that you're either above or below, it'll help you know whether you're supposed to have the block of space above you or below you. And right here, I think. Yep. This is going to be the 6th set. First one I want to tag is that one with the 3A launcher. And I also want to tag that one with the 3A launcher. The others are that one, and the 3 big ones basically right up front here. Now, another reason why it's nice to have, especially for this set, the limpets separated like this, is because now, if I really lose my position, if I really lose my tracking on where I am, I can shut off the 5A limpet launcher, and that will kill those 4 limpets. Boom, done, gone. Which means the only 2 rocks that I will have tagged are my reference point rock, which is the one way the hell back there, and the one that is closest to it otherwise. So I've got good reference points. But all of these rocks, and this is the reason why I chose to mark them. I mean, the first one here is 35%, the one behind it 25%. This one's 23. The other ones I've got marked back here, there's a 20, there's a 21, and the reference point for the area is 23% again. So yeah, these are all very good value rocks, all in a very short area, and I figured I would simply just mark the farthest one out from the reference point from moving on from this area. And I've slipped back into deep... I've slipped somewhat back into my deeper voice, haven't I? I keep doing that. Again, like I said, it's a habit that needs to be broken. And yeah, I know this is probably not the most exciting thing I could be doing on stream, but it is what I'm working on. I'm trying to make that... I do want to make the push to start getting my carrier out towards Colonia for its the first stage of my exploration jump. And when I get there, I'm going to have to resupply it again in order to be able to confidently make the two-way trip out to the point that I've marked as wanting to do my exploration expedition, as it were, and then still be able to get back.
Asteroid depleted.
Let's see. I am on 120, 130. After all of that, so far I am on 131 tons of tritium. This is after just 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, figure 22 high-value rocks without doing any of the subsurface mining. So I'm actually getting together, at least as far as I'm concerned, a reasonable amount of tritium. I've certainly done far worse, and I do mean far, far worse, just doing random laser mining through a hotspot in other systems without trying to even bother mapping anything that's actually fairly high value. Or I'll sit there for like 2-3 hours just prospecting random rocks and hoping that I find something valuable and just mining off even the low value ones. So I can see the bonus to going through and actually doing and putting together mining maps. It's very, very beneficial to any mining trip. Yep, and I just lost a bunch of limpets. Yeehaw. So now they're gonna have fun going off to chase everything that just got scattered. At least I've got them set to the same trigger as my mining lasers, so as if I lose any, as long as I'm still firing off my lasers, they just automatically refeed themselves, basically.
Collector limit expired.
And of course I think that one just kind of actually aged out. Okay.
Programming orbit drone. Programming orbit drone. Programming orbit drone. Asteroid depleted.
Now obviously the closer you can get to a rock that you're trying to mine out, the better, because it just means that the chunks that you mine off are generally closer to your ship, closer to the collectors, and it just gives them... It just means they get collected that much faster. And now last one should be my reference point here. just to be sure, let's go into my internal panel, modules. Let's find the 5A Prospector limpet controller, shut it off. And yep, because the one behind me should be the second one that I tagged, the one in front of me should be my reference point rock. And that is why I do that.
Asteroid depleted.
Okay, next in line. Got the hotspot there. So we're looking over this way. And it is the one right in the back there.
Limpet drone. Prospector limpet failed.
Now this is actually a unique happenstance where on the way to this rock, I am going to mark another one. And not because it's one that was just difficult to get to, but marked otherwise, it's actually difficult. Well, okay. Because it was hiding behind this larger rock right up here, it's really difficult to actually tag with a limpet, but it's also actually difficult to mark in the map. So it is actually going to be my next waypoint after this one.
Complete.
Because in the mapping it actually gets its own separate identity. Because it is a high value rock, but it's hiding behind everything else.
Asteroid depleted.
Watching the limpets move around on the little radar sensor screen is almost hypnotic sometimes, I think. So now we turn around. And catch our friend here. Like I said, high value rock, 32.23%, but from the previous vantage point, you can't even see it to properly map it. So, yeah.
Asteroid depleted.
And then finally, from here, we have our next looking off to this side. I believe by the reference it is that one right there.
Programming multi-drone.
Should be 29.14%. But I am confident by my positioning that it is in fact the rock, so I'm not even going to bother trying to keep my frame of reference. Yep, 29.14. Never let it be said that I don't know what I'm doing. What's going on, Miss Bit?
Programming multi-drone. Collector limit expired. Programming multi-drone.
Forgive the cat crying in the background. We just had one of the rescue cats taken in for spay this morning, and we really don't have a area to properly isolate her, at least overnight. So she is currently in my room and not exactly pleased about it. Hey, Bit Bit. Bit Bit. She's also not exactly one of our most social cats, so she's not exactly keen on coming to me. Suppose we're gonna be very, very happy just getting those two. Goes one more way the hell out there. Okay. So all the limpets should be back in just a moment. I'm waiting for that one. Let's go ahead to the next mark. One of the nice things is, as long as I don't go too far out, the limpets will chase me down. We're still on this angle. Looking right there.
Programming multi-drone. Prospector limpet failed. Prospector limpet
There we go,
engaged.
25.7%.
Asteroid scan complete.
Pretty much right inside the axis of rotation on this one, I think. I'm actually going to go ahead and do something here for a moment. Just to go back outside. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and hide that. Because I want think I got it. I'll have to check. But I actually want a screenshot of that for my stream thumbnail. When it actually goes... when it adjusts. While those are collecting, let me go ahead and see if I can actually get that. Ha! Yes, I got it. Good.
Collector lipid expired.
And yes, I want to save that as a JPEG because otherwise it is way too big for a thumbnail. There we go. Come on, where are you? There we go. Ha! There we go. Okay, so next from here. Okay, get my screens back in the right order so that I can track everything. There we go. I think this is the one that I just did. And whoever, I think that's just me that it's flagging because I've still got YouTube open up over here. There we go. Okay, so... yeah. I'm still on the previous image. There we go. So now I want to be looking over this way. I believe it's right. That one right there.
Programming limpet drone. Prospector lipid failed.
When I get to it, it should be 19.38%. Bingo.
Prospector lipid engaged.
Finishing closing the distance. Let's find the next one in line.
Programming limpet drone. Programming limpet drone.
Looks like I've got something that's filled up. Yep. Yep. Carbon's been filled up, so I'm going to set that to ignore so that I don't stick around waiting for my limpets trying to gather it. And then my next rock from here. Let's drop down underneath like I'm supposed to. With just looking this way and up. And lots more this way. Okay. There we go. We are right there.
Prospector lipid failed.
If I am right, I am almost out of rocks that I've mapped so far. Yeah.
Prospector lipid engaged. Asteroid scan complete.
So, deciding to not do the tritium or the subsurface mining has actually done one thing. It gave me the ability to get through what I have thus far mapped, which is a very, very good thing because it is coming up on 9:30. Which is about the time that I was aiming for to end the stream. So I'm just going to finish off what I have mapped and basically call it a night. For those of you who may be watching or have backtracked to watch, I do hope you all enjoyed the stream. I hope you found it a little bit informative as to how map mining works, or even just how map mining or mining maps can be built. And otherwise, I just hope you all enjoyed the stream as a whole. This rock's actually giving me a good bit of... and of course I flubbed that one. I do find that some of these rocks that only have like 1 or 2 subsurface deposits really allow you to work with them quite a bit. And unless of course you're me and you keep just wasting charges on them. Just make sure that you reorient yourself properly when you're done. And I think that one's... Yep, that one's completely used up. So I'm going to make a point of just backing straight back up the way that I came to make sure that my orientation is correct. And now I will position to identify the next in line. Which is actually going to be, first off, yeah, it's going to be a tricky one to get to. I actually have to mark this one specially in the HUD, because it is like way off up over this way. I think the way I was looking when I marked it was like this, because that small rock looks familiar. Yep, there we go. It's that one right there. And I was actually looking at it originally from this side of the rock. And part of why my frame of reference on this one is so skewed is because it's literally straight up in the orientation, where if I'm trying to look at it from the proper position underneath the rock that I just mined, this one over here, that I would basically just be looking up at the rock that I just mined. So, yeah. Fair warning on that one. It requires you to not necessarily be in the proper reference point for moving on.
Asteroid depleted.
And there we go. Rewrite myself. And let's thrust up just a little bit. And then there we go. Find my orientation properly. Looking back towards the hotspot. And there we go. As such, that is the extent that I have mapped this hotspot so far. I will be definitely working on this further over the next few days, if not few weeks, depending on how much time I have available. And yeah, it'll be fun. And just for anybody who's curious, through all of that, I have accumulated a whopping 202 tons of tritium, which, figure, my stream has been live now for just under an hour and a half. So, to clarify on this, if I were doing this the way I had been previously, trying to go through a tritium site, I would probably still be around 100, trying to manually prospect and mine everything in sight without actually mapping anything out for repetition. Yeah, that was fun. Not doing that again. Of course, from here forward, if I want to map anything further, which I definitely do, I mean, obviously 202 in a trip, especially on a 2-hour reset for the set, yeah, doesn't really do very well when it only takes me an hour and 20 minutes to run this set. So I am going to be going back and mapping more. I would like to get to the point where I've got enough mapped for a full payload, but I'm looking at several hours of mapping just to actually get to that point, and probably multiple runs also, because from this point on I'm going to be using like 10 limpets just to find the one that's good. Just throwing that out there. So yeah, it's I mean, it's a work in progress, but the more I get, the farther I get, the more effective the mapping will be. And as I've stated before, once I get a reasonable map that can get me a full payload, preferably without having to look at the subsurface mining for anybody who just wants to do the laser mining for the tritium. Once I can get a full payload purely off of the laser mining without having to go to the subsurface deposits, then I will submit to my map to D2EA, or down to Earth Astronomy, and maybe if it's good enough, if he agrees that it's usable, maybe it just might end up on his site as an official map. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to go ahead and call the stream for now. I was aiming for about 9:30 p.m. my time, and it's actually about 9:40, so it's time for me to go help my mom get dinner ready and get some things closed up for the night as far as the house goes. And I guess I will see you all again next stream or next video, whatever comes first. On another point before I do bail out of here, for anybody who does get this far in the stream, I did get enough steel together, finally, for the Franklin Delano Roosevelt and World of Warships. So I do hope to be getting a co-op, of course, because that's my specialty in World of Warships, a co-op review of the Tier 10 Premium U.S. aircraft carrier Franklin Delano Roosevelt out at some point or other. And I'd like to have like 2 or 3 more battles together in it. I've only done one just because I wanted to see how it would work out the night that I got it, and it was like 4 in the morning at that point in time. So yeah, haven't really played with it since. I've been working more on Elite, trying to get this map done, and I haven't gotten back to it. And I also still need to get back into World of Warships to at least finish up with my snowflakes for the coal. I'll probably get there sometime in the next week, hopefully, probably my next day off, which is going to be Tuesday. Because, of course, I work all weekend, and, well, I'm full-time, which means I go in like 2 hours before anybody else, which, yeah, my day on weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, is basically work. All work, from 2 in the afternoon to 10 in the evening. And of course I do still try to game in there, which means I usually don't get to sleep until like 4 in the morning. And if I do that properly, that's 6 hours of sleep if I want to get up at 10 to have a chance at doing anything in the house. Usually it ends up being more like 11 or noon. So yeah, very little time to actually do any recording or streaming on a weekend. That's why my streams are basically relegated to Tuesdays or Thursdays. So anyway, on that note, I will let everybody go. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you all enjoyed the stream. And I will catch you all again next time. And I hope you all found that the lighting for my webcam and all was better this time around. I think I'm actually happier with it, aside from the glare coming off of my screen on my glasses. But, okay, this time, I mean it. Letting you all go. Have a good one, folks. Happy hunting out there. Stay safe.